Stumbling home, we don't know where we're going. Should've turned back hours ago. Out of our minds, I guess we're sleeping outside. You're still a good time, even in the cold.
Hello, welcome to Defender Adventure. We are Paul and Chrissy from the UK, and with our Land Rover Defender that we have called Sterling, we are travelling the world.
Guess we need a new plan. There's a motel a mile down the road.
Are you happy with your glasses on your head?
Are you? Yeah.
Oh, whatever.
As long as I remember to keep putting them back there after I leave my notes.
Yeah. And you can't see your notes in your shop?
I wouldn't think so, no.
No. It is recording, is it?
Yeah.
Oh. Hello, welcome to Defender Adventure. We are Paul and Chrissy, and we are trying to travel the world in our Land Rover Defender Sterling. We're going to have to say we're outside or something, so there'll be bird noises and hooters blowing and... Shall I do that again?
Okay, wait. Yeah, go on.
No, that sounded alright, because I'll mess it up now. Alright, I'll try. Hello, welcome to Defender Adventure. We are Paul and Chrissy, and we are trying to travel the world in our Land Rover Defender Sterling. It's currently May 2021 and we are in Baja California, Sur. This video, it takes us back to the beginning of our journey in Halifax, Nova Scotia.
Yes, we...
Excuse me.
Thank you. Yes, this is the third episode in our series so far. We've made an introductory video and we've made two original episodes that give background to how we came to be doing this journey. For those of you who have seen those videos, you'll know that we have arranged to meet with Jerry on the Prince of Wales Island in southeast Alaska. And this video is of our journey from the east coast of Canada that takes us right across Canada to Prince Rupert in British Columbia, where we will then catch the Alaska Marine Highway ferry from Prince Rupert up to Ketchikan, and from Ketchikan we take another ferry out to the Prince of Wales Island. We have to catch that ferry at Prince Rupert on the 30th of April, and we leave Halifax on the 9th of April. So if all goes well, we should have plenty of time to cross Canada. Hope you enjoy. Good. Don't know if that's any good. Do I want to do that again?
Well, the big day finally arrived, 7th of April 2019, and it was our flight from UK to Halifax, Nova Scotia via Toronto. From what I can remember, the flight was smooth, uneventful, and went pretty quick.
We arrived in Halifax around mid-afternoon, 7-hour flight, and grabbed our bags, got on the local shuttle bus and went to our apartment building which did look like shipping containers, and it was pretty close to the port. We'd chosen a location specifically to be close to the port, as we thought that's where we would be collecting sterling from. Turns out that wasn't the case, but we'll come back to that shortly.
Also, we could see Tim Hortons drive-through from our window, and we've never heard of Tim Hortons.
No, my daughter had, and she made us aware that they were famous for donuts and coffee, and we did a little bit of research and found that they like to focus on the freshness of their food, as demonstrated by this video.
At Tim Hortons, we are excited to be serving you freshly cracked eggs. We don't want to get into what they were before, but now we serve only freshly cracked eggs. 100% Canadian grade A large eggs, hand-picked from the pigeons and seagulls in our parking lot. Did you say seagulls?
There's always time for Tim Hortons. Try our donuts, now with real dough.
What?
Despite this video, it's fair to say that we visited Tim Hortons quite a bit on our travel across Canada. We woke to our first full day in Halifax, and we've got a lot to do. Bear with us, we're going to bounce you around a bit.
Yeah, our first port of call, as we said previously, wasn't actually the port. We had to go to Customs House across the other side of Halifax in order to get paperwork that would allow us to release sterling from the bonded warehouse in which he was being stored. The customs officers were fantastic. The whole process went very smoothly, and it wasn't long before we were back out and back on another bus to take us across the river to Dartmouth, to where the bonded warehouse was located.
Yes, this process went quite smoothly, but took some time, and eventually saw sterling being backed out of his container, dark container that he'd been in for a few weeks.
We actually had very limited parking near our apartment building, and so we asked the owners of the bonded warehouse if it was possible that we could leave it in their staff car, our vehicle in their staff car park overnight, and we could then come and collect it the following morning. Shush. And they said that was fine. We could leave our vehicle there, collect it the following morning.
Stick with it.
Yeah. Well, let me get rid of him and then start again. Yeah, as we had limited parking next to our apartment building, we asked the owners of the bonded warehouse if we could leave sterling in the staff car park overnight so we could collect him the following morning when we started our journey. They said that was fine, so that's what we did. We left him there and we took another bus back to our apartment for our last night in Halifax. But we did manage just to find enough time on the way back to pop into Alexander Keith's brewery just to sample the local brew. You know how when we arrived at our apartment building we showed you a photograph of the port from our window looking like this? Well, this morning it looked a little bit different. And so did sterling when we arrived to collect him. It wasn't exactly the weather that we wanted for our first day on the road, especially as we hadn't even packed a snow scraper.
Once we did clear, or I cleared the snow from Stirling, we got on the road. And the sky was blue, roads were clear, but still a lot of snow. I
don't think we really fully realised how cold it could be in April. And so camping was obviously out of the question. Our journey that day took us to a small town called Miramichi, and we selected some B&B accommodation there for the night, but it was still bitterly cold when we arrived. In fact, this is the view of the river in front of our accommodation. I don't think I've ever seen a river as wide as this, fully frozen. It was absolutely bitter cold. Miramichi is a small town, and it's in the province of New Brunswick. We'd previously come from Halifax, which was in the province of Nova Scotia, and I think now might be a good time just to mention a couple of facts about Canada.
Canada is big.
Canada is made up of 5 regions, and these 5 regions comprise 3 northern territories and 10 provinces. Our journey started in the Atlantic region, which is home to 4 of the provinces. Unfortunately, we will be missing out on Newfoundland and Labrador and Prince Edward Island, but our journey to Prince Rupert in British Columbia will take us across the remaining 6 provinces of Canada, including the predominantly French-speaking province of Quebec, and we would hope to visit the Northern Territories later on in our journey.
Canada is big.
To put this into some perspective, the UK is just under 250,000 square kilometres. Ontario and Quebec combined are over 2.5 million square kilometres. That means the UK would fit into these 2 provinces alone around 10 times in terms of total area. London in the UK is closer to Halifax on the east coast of Canada than the east coast of Canada is to the west coast of Canada.
Canada is big.
Canada is the 2nd widest country in the world, and it has 6 time zones, and we will be passing through 5 of these. The only one we will miss is the Newfoundland time zone, which for some reason is half an hour ahead of the other provinces in the Atlantic region. We should have to keep an eye out for these time changes as we travel across Canada. It's not something we're used to when we're driving in the UK. The next few days of driving were pretty uneventful. From Miramichi we travelled north into Quebec and then headed along the south side of the St. Lawrence River. We crossed the river just south of Montreal, and having passed by Ottawa, I think we felt that we passed the larger towns of Canada, at least for the next few days. The roads were generally good and stayed clear of snow, but we did wash the car quite regularly just to keep the level of grip down. The weather though remained freezing, and just to show that, here is a picture of me actually stood on Lake Superior. Day 6 of our journey brought us into a small town called Wawa.
Shortly after leaving Wawa, I asked Paul, where did Pooh come from?
I was a bit surprised by the question, but I tried to give my best scientific answer. I explained how the food we ate is taken into the digestive system, and through a series of tracts it's broken down, and the nutrients and the goodness is extracted by the body, and the waste that's left gets compacted and exits the body via the anus.
And that was all very interesting, but then I said, well, where did Tigger come from?
This was all because we were coming into a town called White River, and apparently this was where Pooh came from. I'm going to have to read from some notes here. A Canadian soldier and veterinarian called Harry Colborne bought a little bear cub for $20 at the train station in White River, Ontario. He named the cub Winnie Peg Bear after his hometown. Harry was on the way to Quebec to join fellow soldiers heading for England and World War I. and the bear went with him. Winnie, as she became known, and yes, she was a she, Winnie became the mascot of Harry's troop. But shortly after their arrival in England, Harry's troop received orders to go to France. The bear was not allowed to go, but was loaned to London Zoo. Two of Winnie's most frequent visitors to the zoo was A.A. Milne and his son Christopher Robin. The rest, as they say, is history. Leaving Winnie the Pooh behind, we finished our journey and ended the day in Thunder Bay, a town on the edge of Lake Superior, and the lake was still frozen solid as far as the eye could see, including the marina. The next day took us from Thunder Bay to a small town on the border called Fort Frances. We continued our journey across Canada and entered Manitoba. Manitoba brought us to the halfway point of our journey. We've now done around 2,400 miles and we were still only halfway across Canada. The next few days of driving were probably as boring as it gets. We drove across Manitoba and Saskatchewan, and it was flat, prairie lands, very, very flat. But we think that if you live in this sort of an area, you have to have a very good sense of humour, and that turned out to be true. The Longbow Lake Volunteer Fire Brigade demonstrated their sense of humour, and a gentleman that we spoke to about how flat the area was told us, yep, I actually sat and watched my dog run away for 3 days. I don't know if that was a very good Canadian accent or not. But yeah, we were pretty pleased to be moving through that area and heading out towards the Rockies. A few days prior to our arrival in Calgary, we received an email from the Alaska Marine Highway Service to say that well, here's the message. We were overwhelmed by the apologetic nature of their message and let them know that we wanted to push our journey back to May the 7th. We received revised tickets from them, but we were a little shocked to see the time of departure.
Once we got over our initial frustration of our change of schedule,
There's a lot of fish in there. Do it again.
Once we got over our initial frustration, you say it!
Once Chrissy had got over, once Chrissy got over the initial frustration of the change of schedule from the ferry company, we realised that actually we had a great opportunity to spend some time in the Banff and Jasper national parks. We had planned on doing this a little bit later in our journey, but it now seemed an ideal time to take advantage of that.
We booked ourselves into some accommodation in Canmore near to Banff.
So with Canmore as our next destination, we continued our journey across and into Calgary. We had a brief moment with the Calgary motorbike police as we were pulled over. A little worried about what we may or may not have done, but it turned out that one of the motorbike cops was from Scotland and was interested to see a UK registered vehicle driving through Calgary and wanted to know what we were doing there. So after a brief chat, we were wished very well and sent on our way.
But he was from Stirling.
He was from Stirling.
He
was, and very pleased to see his name on the front of our vehicle. From Calgary, it was just a short ride to to Canmore. The Rockies came into view. There was some snow on the tops, but not very much. And we plan to spend nearly a week there exploring the area before moving up for a few days into Jasper.
Banff and Jasper National Parks are located on the provincial border of Alberta and British Columbia in the Rocky Mountains. Canmore, the town in which we were staying, was just outside Banff National Park, but was still in a beautiful location. This is the view I had coming out of the local supermarket.
Our first day of exploring took us to, and no comments please, a beautiful location called Lake Minnewanka and Two Jacks Lake. It was here we discovered the red chairs. The National Park have placed red chairs in various locations to allow you to take time out, they say, to connect with nature and each other. Some chairs were supposedly harder to find than others, but Chrissy seemed to have no problems finding them.
Only a few miles from Lake Minnewanka was Cascade Mountain, where we had the opportunity to try a new experience called tubing. The next few days were spent exploring the beauty of the park and taking hikes where possible.
We called in to the town of Banff around the halfway stage of our stay, and from close to the famous Fairmont Hotel, we took the gondola ride up to the top of Sulphur Mountain, from where the views were stunning. And if you can believe it, Chrissy even managed to find a red chair up here.
Towards the end of the week, we took a trip to Lake Louise. We were at the wrong time of the year to see the normally beautiful turquoise water. We did, however, get to walk on the lake, but only where it was safe to do so.
Our week in Canmore passed really quickly, and it was soon time for us to continue our journey, this time up the Icefield Parkway. The Icefield Parkway is a 144-mile long stretch of road that connects Banff and Jasper National Parks, and it is rated as one of the top drives in the world and something we have been looking forward to. Unfortunately, the weather prevented us from enjoying the first part of the journey. It snowed and it was freezing cold. To give you an idea of how cold it was, take a look at the ice formation on this wheel hub.
After an overnight stop in Saskatchewan river crossing, the weather the next day was much improved. A short trip north brought us to the Columbia Icefield. From the Icefield Visitor Centre, you could either hike to the glacier or take an ice crawler bus. We chose to hike. The majority of visitors took the bus. The ice crawler buses were huge, but looked so small once they were on the ice. We thought we were being brave by hiking to the glacier until we met with a couple setting out on a 3-day mountain climbing trip.
We had a wonderful time in the snow that morning, and Chrissy momentarily forgot how old she was. Completing our journey to Jasper, we started to appreciate the beauty of the Icefield Parkway that we had heard so much about. Once in Jasper, we noticed how quiet the town was, and we tried our luck at getting a bargain stay at the Fairmont Hotel. And it paid off. The next 3 days were spent in Jasper and enjoying the surrounding scenery and nature. We didn't know it then, but we would be lucky enough to be back in Jasper later in the year.
After an enjoyable time in the Banff and Jasper National Parks, we left Alberta and drove into British Columbia, and our first stop in British Columbia was the smallest place that we've been to so far. A small, I'm not sure you can call it a town, but it was called Dome Creek. To give you an idea of the size, this is their unmanned post office. We stopped here to see some friends that we've been in contact with before we left home, and it was here we had a couple of firsts. We saw our first moose and we saw our first black bear, which was pretty exciting. But unfortunately, nothing more exciting happened after we left Dome Creek until we got to Prince Rupert, and in Prince Rupert we had a wonderful fish meal. I can highly recommend going to Dolly's restaurant in Prince Rupert. Very nice meal there, and as this picture shows, the fish is highly recommended by the crabs. And then it was just a case of going to bed very early, because we had a very early start the following morning. And our next video will take us from our departure from Prince Rupert up to Prince of Wales Island, and the 3 months that we spent living on a float house and spending some time on an oyster farm and seeing some of the wonderful sights that we saw both in the ocean and on land.
A great adventure.
It was a great time.
Yeah.
So we'll see you soon.
Thanks for watching.
After an enjoyable break in the Banff and Jasper parts. You know how on the day we arrived,
Yeah.
we showed you a photo of the port that looked like this?
Yeah.
Well, this morning it looked a little bit different, as did Stirling.
You know, we showed you a photograph of the port looked like this. You know, on the day of our arrival, the port looked like this. Well, this morning we woke to the port looking like this.
No, it looked a little bit different, as did Stirling.
You know, on our arrival, we showed you a photograph of the port looking like this. Well, we woke.
And so did Snurdy.
You know, we showed you. No. Oh my God. You know how. You know, on how the day. Shut up. I hate this.
The following day threw us a little spanner in the works in our route planning. The most direct route, or
Hold on.
the most direct route for us would have taken us from the